Dr. Jayson Strickland. Man, what a privilege. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show to share your story with our viewers and our listeners. Could you please tell us what's going on in your life and in your K-12 career right now?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me on your show first. And I am honored and privileged to have a few moments to talk a little bit of education and leadership with you. But my life is an interesting one. It's busy right now. I'm sure like all educators and leaders are doing right now. We're getting geared up to get ready to go into kind of post-pandemic education mode. Hopefully it'll be more of a normal year than the last few have been, but that's where we are right now at Hogan Prep. And let me just kind of maybe infer from your question, I think you might be asking kind of how I got to this place. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I kind of have like a traditional education path from the standpoint that I was a classroom teacher, an assistant principal, a central office administrator, and a deputy superintendent in a traditional school district, traditional K-12 school system. And in the past 3 years, within the past 3 years, I transitioned into a charter school superintendent of Hogan Prep Academy. And we are a K-12 system serving approximately 1,200 students. Awesome. And it's an interesting path, like we've talked about a little bit before. I thought I would end up being a leader of some type in a traditional school district, but my trajectory took me over to the charter school network, which is, I think, kind of exactly where I was supposed to be and where I'm supposed to be, because just a little bit of brief history about my background. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I was raised in a family where my uncles had their own business, my grandfather had their own business, my grandmother had their own business, my father had their own business. And our family business growing up was a preschool, a daycare center.
Okay.
And I actually learned how to probably work with young people at a very early age. When you have a family business, you do some of everything. That's cleaning the floors, doing the windows, answering the phone, writing receipts. You do some of everything.
Sure.
But why that's important to my current position in life, my father always kind of raised me around this notion of being an entrepreneur. And that's what I was. And so I had this kind of aspect that was education and this aspect that was entrepreneur. And so interesting, when I describe myself as an edupreneur.
All right.
I'm an educator who thinks like an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And the reality is charter school systems have to function that way because we are a system that people have to choose. Because they choose us, we have to have a product worth choosing. And that lends itself well to a scenario of how an entrepreneur has to think. And in its core and its essence, an entrepreneur sees a need and tries to fulfill a need.
Okay.
And now, typical entrepreneurs do that from a monetary perspective. How do they monetize that? But just an entrepreneur thinker just takes it at its core and says, okay, what is the need and how can I serve this need? And to tell you the truth, that's how I think about education and particularly educational leadership. And being a leader in the charter school system lends itself well to that type of thinking, that kind of entrepreneur thinking. So that was kind of the quick, fast, dirty version of how I got to this place in my life. But it really boils down to being an educator, an entrepreneur, leader. And I get the opportunity to do all of those things as a leader in the Hogan Prep Academy system.
So I see what looks like an architectural rendering of what looks like a brand new school. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. One of our accomplishments that we've been able to achieve over the last few years is that we were able to erect a new facility for our 7 through 12 students. And it is scheduled to open up for 9 through 12 students this August.
Okay.
And then our 7 and 8 center, which is on the same campus, the same footprint, will open up in January.
Okay.
And as I may have mentioned a little earlier, the unique thing about our facility is that we had the good fortune to design it specifically to be a supplement and support to our education program. Most education programs have to be retrofitted into an existing facility.
Okay.
But we had the opportunity to design this facility to be a specific support for our unique education program, which is focused around personalizing the learning experience for each student.
Wow. So it's a purpose-built facility.
Absolutely. At least that's what we hope it is to be. And as I said earlier, when we put 400 kids in there, we'll see how well we did with that design.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. So yeah, at some point I would love for you to come back on the show and just kind of share how that's gone, and when it's actually where you guys are actually in it and, it's really meeting the needs of your students. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Wow. So if you've been there the last 3 years, for all intent and purposes, all 3 years, you've been the superintendent of a school system that was really kind of going through the pandemic. How has that been?
Like most of us who've been trying to figure out education in this context, it's been challenging. It has been absolutely challenging. I think that the work through the pandemic has exposed areas where we absolutely had to be better. And it's also exposed areas where we can learn and take advantage of and incorporate into education moving forward. I liken it to the experience of, and I say this with all due respect to this particular event in history, but some of us are old enough to remember travel before 9/11 and travel after 9/11. Those are two different scenarios.
100%.
And I believe that we ought to think about education comparable to, or at least education in the pandemic, comparable to a significant event like that. We had pre-pandemic education and we have post-pandemic education. I am hoping that we will take full advantage of all the things that we need to adjust and change to better serve students and leave all the ones in the past that we need to leave in the past. But that was a long answer to say it has been challenging. It has been challenging to foster relationships with students and young people. And it's been challenging to connect on what I would say a more intimate, close level via remote learning. But at the same time, remote learning also offers opportunities to personalize experiences and allow students to move at a more personalized pace, and allows you to connect with them when things may be challenging. So, it has its pros and its cons, but hopefully all of us who've had to try to do this work can be better at our work as a result of it. And so,
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So do you see Bishop Hogan, I'm sorry, I'm calling it what it used to be.
Used to be, that's all right. That happens often.
Yeah, so Hogan Prep is a charter school network right now. I mean, is the goal to expand it? I mean, obviously you're building new facilities, they're purpose-built facilities. I mean, is the goal to eventually expand it?
Well, we have a goal to increase our enrollment a few hundred, but we want to keep it at a size that allows us to kind of work efficiently. And I think there's a scale, a magic number that we're going to try to find. And so I think we do want to expand it, but we don't want to get too large. I left this part out in part of my transition, and when you asked the initial question, but one of the reasons I came to Hogan specifically is because my background historically has been to work in traditional school systems.
Sure.
And in traditional school systems that may be on the larger side do a lot of things well. But one of the challenges they face a lot of times are to work efficiently. And there are just some inherent red tape and bureaucracy and things that just go along with large systems. And that's not to be critical of them, it's just the reality.
Yes. And
one of the things that was attractive about moving to this setting in a setting that serves this number of students and has this many staff is that we are able to be agile and be a little more nimble.
Mm-hmm.
What I was hoping, and what we're hoping that it allows us to do, is to be an example for the metro area, for schools across the state, even across the country, on how education needs to evolve and do things differently. So we want to be a microcosm of what larger systems can potentially aspire to. And why I say that's important for us is because our population, they are resilient, but they come with some challenges. And because they have challenges in their life, a lot of people don't believe that they can achieve at a very high level. And our team is one that not only do we believe it, we want to show. And when we do show that, we want them to see that when our students have access and have opportunity, they will rise to any occasion. I had a mentor tell me a long time ago, when adults and systems do what they're supposed to do, students won't let you down. Ooh. And so that's what we hope to be as an example. So that, again, is another long answer to a question of, do we hope to expand? We want to expand to a level that allows us to work at a scale that's efficient, but also allows us to stay agile and nimble, and show how this work can be done in a very efficient way.
Awesome. Yeah, you actually answered one of the questions I was going to ask you about the difference between a traditional school system and a charter school system. Like, I mean, you've worked in both, and I'm sure you see pros and cons in each, but what do you see long term? Like, I mean, obviously you're still a relatively young man, still could do this another 15, 20 years. Like, I mean, do you see yourself staying in the charter school system, or do you see are you open-minded about that? Like, does it matter really? Like, I'm just.
That's a fair question, but, I don't know that I have an answer. I want to do good things for young people. Sure. And I want to do good things for people that work around me. I am an educator at my core, and I want to educate people, and I want to, and that can be done in various different settings. Sure. You know what I mean? And so right now, being in this charter system fits exactly where I'm supposed to be, but I've never closed the door to anything. If going back to a traditional system makes sense, I'd be happy to do that if the time and the opportunity is right. But staying in a charter system, if the time and the opportunity is right and I'm supposed to be there, I'll be there. Bottom line, I want to accomplish some things with people that help them be better and increase success for young people. That's what I would like to do. So that can be in various different settings. Yes.
Yeah, you just want to be a vessel. I love it. That's really cool. So I have another question for you. I feel like, one of the reasons why I started this show is because I wanted to showcase phenomenal leaders like yourself, but I also feel like our profession gets a bad rap sometimes. Why do you believe the K12 profession is such a noble profession?
That's such a great question. I think that we deal with society's most valuable possession. We are entrusted with the community's most valuable asset. And that is at its core why education is such a noble profession.
Absolutely.
There's an analogy, a story that I'm used to. There's a tribe, I believe in Africa, and they greet each other with the saying, how are the children?
Ooh, yeah.
Because the thinking behind that is, if the children are well in the community is well. And so, to your question more specifically, it is such a noble profession because we have the opportunity to cultivate the community's most valuable asset. Wow. And then that most valuable asset has the opportunity to repeat that for upcoming and future generations. And that really can help society thrive. And so educators are a core piece of that to make sure that the community does well.
I love that. Yeah. I would hope that, you would hope that the pandemic would show not just America, but countries all over the world. Like, you cannot, like you said, if the children aren't well, then society's not well. Yes, I love that. I think I've heard about that tribe in Africa, that's how they greet, how are the children and how are the children? I love that because it's so applicable just to how the world works and how we're going to continue to progress as a society. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. How long have you been in K-12 education, Dr. Strickland?
Man, I counted up. I think I'm in year 28 or 29. So, I can remember that year one, and it's a funny story. I remember someone next to me said they had been in there 16 years, and I thought that was a lifetime. And now I've almost doubled that.
You almost doubled that, and it probably went quick for you, right?
Oh, it went quick. It went quick. Lots of lessons in that 28, 29 year career. Mm-hmm. But yes, I've been doing this work for almost 30 years.
Wow. But you seem like a very relatively young man. I mean, how much longer do you see yourself in this profession?
I see myself doing this work as long as I feel like I'm positively contributing to it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have an end date in mind, but I do have probably some transitional phases that I see myself moving through within this work. For example, mm-hmm. I think a leader's responsibility and obligation is to grow leaders.
Absolutely.
And so as I work with my team, I'm very fortunate and blessed to have a strong, talented team. Mm-hmm. And I feel it is one of my primary responsibilities is to grow them and have them ready.
Right.
For their next step and their next role. And so as they evolve into that, that'll probably have some influence on when I make my transition and when I move out of their way, and so that they can take the organization into the next step and make it thrive. So I don't necessarily have a specific end date, but I do see myself shifting into some other maybe roles to help support education from different angles, but don't know exactly when that'll be now. Yeah.
No, that's fair. So you've been doing this 28, 29 years, almost 30 years. Like if you could go all the way back to the beginning, Doc, would you still have chosen K-12 education as your profession?
Yes, I would have. I would have. I think that I was fortunate enough to know early on that I knew since fifth grade I wanted to be an educator.
Wow. So okay.
I knew early on, so I would have definitely chose it. But I've been one of the people that I think has just been blessed to have a rewarding career. It's not always been easy, but it's been a rewarding career, and because of that, I wouldn't change it. I would take some of these lessons back and hopefully do things better, but I wouldn't change. I wouldn't.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Well, Doc, you've been doing this for over 30 years, and I just want to take a moment and honor you for all of the great work that you've done in all of the communities you work, no matter what your role was, whether you were a teacher, assistant principal, district leader, and now superintendent. It's people like you that have just really made a difference in the lives of young people all over this country. And I want to honor you and thank you for all the great work that you've done in your communities that you've worked in.
Well, Dr. Williams, I appreciate that gratitude, and I want to echo it back to you because you have done similar work in similar places across the country, and I think we probably there's never been a time there's been a line of people waiting outside our door to beat it down and say thank you. So if you're gonna say thank you to me, I'm gonna say thank you to you too, because you absolutely have done it a very similar time span, and you deserve some gratitude and appreciation too. So I say thank you to you for your work with young people.
So much. So Dr. Strickland, this has been great, and I'm really grateful that you have come on the My K12 Career Show. But before you leave, would you please give our viewers that are listening to you all over the world some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and we'll say goodbye.
Well, Dr. Williams, let me start off by saying thank you again to you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this work. And in one of your questions, you suggest how important this work is in terms of education and teaching and careers in that area. So I appreciate you lifting up educators in this space and giving them a platform to talk about this work. And so thank you to you. You know, my parting words would just be partner with your educators, support them. As I mentioned earlier, that our young people are our most valuable asset in our community. So let's find a way to work together, support them, and help them be equipped and be ready to take the baton, take the torch, and make society a better place. And so hopefully you have, whoever's listening to this has an educator that they can appreciate and thank them. At the same time, we educators, we need to welcome that appreciation and probably more challenging, welcome that pressure when we need to make ourselves better.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of times we like to think we know it all, but sometimes we got to open up our eyes, minds, and hearts to welcome some suggestions and some friendly criticism so that we can grow and help our young people be better. So
absolutely.
Those are just some encouraging words that I'll close with, and just wish all educators a successful year as we get ready to start this 22-23 school year.
Absolutely.
And families and students too. Wish you all a successful upcoming school year.
Absolutely. And how can we connect with you, Doc?
Well, if you reach out on hoganprep.net, hoganprep.net is our webpage, and we have contact information there that you can get in touch with me at hoganprep.net. And I should be social media savvy enough to be able to tell you an Instagram, but I'm still learning, man. I'm still learning. I'm kind of old school. I dare not drop the phone number down here. I'd have really dated myself. But please, at least go to the webpage. You can catch us there. That's
awesome. That's awesome. And also, yeah, we reconnected through LinkedIn, so I know they can reach you on LinkedIn.
They can reach me on LinkedIn too. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for reminding me. I think you can reach me there on LinkedIn at Dr. Jayson Strickland. And if you search that, I'm sure you can find me there on LinkedIn too. So thank you for that reminder too.
Absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. You're not that old, Doc.
Well, you said we're in the same generation, Doc. Same generation. We got to keep kicking.
Absolutely. Keep kicking, keep learning, for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So once again, Doc, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I definitely wish you all the best. And the next time, you know, full transparency, I'm a Kansas City native, love Kansas City, everything about it. And next time I come through, I definitely want to stop through and see how you're doing over there.
Well, Dr. Williams, I appreciate that. So I thank you again. I applaud you in this platform for elevating educators and talking the work up so people can hear it and hopefully get a chance to expand their horizons as it relates to it. So I thank you for that.
All right.
So, hey,